My new intro. How about that, huh? All right. Good to be with you guys. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to hang out with me here and go over some pretty important stuff, let me tell you. As we get into chapter 2, right, we start to really see some of the issues that this young lady confronted in her new role as a leader in that particular church. So, Holy Spirit, we thank you that you are with us virtually wherever we are. And so thank you for giving us all the insight, all the wisdom, all the truth that you have for us through this awesome book, Lord. Father, we just want to create a culture that you're comfortable in, Jesus, that you can fully abide in and do what you want. So we just give you that glory, and thank you for the opportunity to learn and grow in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I think we've got everybody. Yeah, everybody else jumped in. Okay, chapter 2. Chapter 2. I don't know why I keep thinking it's 1. So, the chapter starts out, as you know, with her facing her first interpersonal conflict with one of the people on her team. And this is a woman who, as she points out, is obviously hurting pretty deeply. And so she is someone that has a hard time with any kind of, I don't know, I was going to say constructive criticism, but even just sharing, something that would be pretty benign. The woman just can't handle it. And so she, I like the way she writes this. It's this, when this woman does this, she immediately started backpedaling. And yeah, I know what that feels like, and you probably do too. Someone goes off on you, and your first response, if you have been, I think, any time in the Lord where it's not right to do the eye for the eye, tooth for the tooth thing, your immediate reaction is to kind of whoa, and just immediately start to apologize and whatnot for getting this person upset. And that's not a bad reaction, obviously. Is we're supposed to be compassionate about stuff and whatnot, but that's obviously that's not the only response that we should have. Yet I know I've been guilty of that on many occasions, of just basically trying to smooth things over without really going deeper to find out, okay, so what's going on here? Okay. So she has this conversation with Tony Stoltzfus, who is their leadership coach that they brought in, and he immediately pinpoints the issue, which is that she is afraid of this woman. And as she digs deeper into her fear, what's going on? Why am I afraid of this? Where did this start? What triggered this initially? There's a lot of good stuff there, and obviously that's. I think it's important for us to be willing to do that. Again, I can tell you that that's been part of my journey personally, where when I find myself reacting to certain people or certain situations, I want to find out, well, where's this coming from? How did this happen? Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, because that's far from it, but it is something that, I've been able to learn. I'm grateful for that. When I, again, feel like, well, man, why am I feeling like this? Well, what's going on? I've learned on some level to, try to find out where it started and what it actually looks like. And that's what she does here with Tony's help. And so the roots of powerlessness on page 25, she gets into this this area of really what Danny Silk writes about in his book, that powerful people are not infected or affected by their environment. They refuse to be victims of others. And that sounds so simple on the surface to say, yes, I'm going to be a powerful person. I won't be victimized by other people and their messes and the situations, the drama that they create. But I think all of us know that things just trigger us in a way that we're not immediately conscious of the fact that this is triggering us until maybe it's a little too late. It's like we might recognize that we got triggered, but it's usually after the fact, right? It's not in the midst of it or right at the outset of it. Do we see that, oh, okay. And she talks about that as well. And so, she mentions this process of becoming more self-aware, and how we all deal with the basic reactions to fear, which are either fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are the three ways that we all deal with fear on some level. We can either immediately put ourselves in a fight stance where we're going to give as good as we just got, right? And obviously that usually doesn't help, but it is one of the reactions. The flight is clear. I'm getting out of here because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with you. And then the freeze is just basically you shut down and you don't do anything, right? You just basically try to make believe that it's going away, make believe it's not there, denial, all that sort of thing, So those are the basic ways that we can respond to fear, and it's all about protecting ourselves. And so one of the phrases here that I really like is she talks this on top of page 27. If we hope to be powerful people who can develop healthy, powerful relationships, we must develop trained responses that enable us to keep our love on and protect relationships when scary and painful things happen. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is really one of the most, I think, the wisest thing that I learned years ago was that I could actually kind of prepare myself for certain things by looking at it and saying, okay, so what's the best way for me? I know this is going to happen again at some point, right? So what's my best response? What's my best approach to taking care of this or dealing with, this particular situation? And so, having kind of an arsenal of responses where, you don't have to almost think about it. It's like, okay, I see this, I know what to do. It's huge. And I've even engaged in these thought experiments at times when I didn't know if something was going to happen, but I wondered, well, it could, this could occur. This situation could happen. I'll give you one example. We as a ministry, we have been beholden to others for the ability to carry out our meetings and our ministry, doing things, whether it was there at the Harvest Training Center or at the House of Prayer, or any other location that we might have been operating from. We were always at the mercy of the leader of that particular ministry. And so for me, having come from environments where I routinely saw other ministries being disrespected and dishonored seemingly at the drop of a hat, even lied to, where it was said, one thing was said, one day, and then seemingly the next it was completely the opposite. You know, I went through a time where I was doing these thought experiments. Okay, so how would I respond if I got a phone call and said, okay, we don't want you here anymore. We don't, you know, we feel that it's best that you not minister here anymore. If we get the left foot of fellowship. And so, I did. I spent some time over that potential scenario because I wanted to know how I could respond, and hopefully by working that out in advance in my own mind, if that ever happened, which it didn't. I mean, thank God, I, I guess people like me enough. But anyway, I actually went through and imagined how I would respond, what I would say, you know, and I felt it was really beneficial, because just the fact that I was able to, uh, imagine it and consider the possibility and figure out, well, okay, I think I know what I'll do now if that ever happens. It's amazing. So anyway, that's kind of a little of my testimony in this. So then she gets into the whole area of seeking self-awareness, where we have to be willing to receive feedback from others and, have an atmosphere, an environment where that's welcomed. I've used this phrase before because this is one of the things that I was taught when I went to school for coaching, right? Feedback is the breakfast of champions. And so, talking, she talks about the courage to learn the truth. I think for some of us, or whoever knows how many, I don't know, the Lord knows how many of us, there can be this fear of discovering things about ourselves that we would consider to be negative or just would make us uncomfortable. If someone was to come and say, I really need to share something with you, and they talk about a character flaw, or your style of speaking and how it affects people, things of that nature. um, if we're not secure in who we are as sons and daughters, that can be very threatening because we build an identity, how we see ourselves, and that self-built identity can be extremely fragile. And it's almost like, someone could just come along and just, with the slightest little touch, and some part of that facade just crumbles, because, we've been doing our best to kind of keep up appearances and all this sort of thing and to do our best and whatnot. And so if we get into a conversation with someone where they want to share um, their perception, their experience, you know, of me or of you, that can be threatening. It can, make us feel afraid, um, and so we've got to learn to deal with that. We have to learn to, uh, I guess, accept that as a possibility, but realize that we really are in this together. That we're not. There's no adversarial relationship here. At least I hope there. Please, Lord, no. I'm joking. There's no adversarial intent. We're just like, hey, I need help, you need help. Let's help each other. Let's just be honest and real and share stuff. If I say something or do something that's offensive, in an inadvertent way, I didn't mean it. It just, maybe I was having a bad day or just didn't realize that something I said or did, was hurtful. That happens, right? So we're wanting to grow to a point in our um, relational skills, and really our love for one another. Oh my gosh, isn't that it right there? It's just our love for one another that enables us to, hear the heart of another person, who's coming to me saying, I just need to share something with you. I was like, yeah, yes, please. um, and one of these things that she points out here, which, oh my gosh, this is so huge. It's learning how to understand the truth about ourselves without judging ourselves. Okay. So, that if someone comes to me and says, hey, you know what? I think your jokes are inappropriate. I mean, I don't joke anywhere near as much as Gary, but I know sometimes my jokes can be, maybe a little pointed. But so let's say that happens, that you feel like I was, insulting in my jokes, right? And you want to share that with me. So you come and you talk to me about that, and if my first response to you sharing that you feel like that I'm, potentially hurting people, or maybe I hurt you by a joke I told or said, if my first response to that is to beat myself up because, oh my God, how could I do that? I must be a horrible Christian. There must be something wrong with me that I would, here I'm trying to do my best to be, someone who represents the Lord and his kingdom. And here I am thinking I'm just being funny and lighthearted, and yet I'm hurting people. If my first response is to do that, is to judge myself, to beat myself up over, a mistake that I made, well, that reaction actually prevents me from looking at something with a view to understanding, okay, well, let's figure out why did I think that was a good idea? What prompted me, to behave in that way, and to look for the root of a particular response that I had. See, that's, oh man, you want to talk about maturity? That right there is maturity, to be able to receive feedback from somebody and realize that it's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth where I can take that and, I realize, okay, yeah, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, but I don't have to beat myself up over making a mistake. And instead, I'm going to look at that and examine it. I'm going to try to understand, where that came from, how I, came by that particular characteristic or tendency or behavior pattern or whatever it might be. So, oh my gosh, that is so huge for all of us because, think about it. If I come and share something with you that I feel you need to know in order to help you grow, and your reaction to that is bad because you you feel so shameful, so guilty, so angry with yourself over that, that we can't have a conversation. Your reaction in that way is going to put some distance between us, because I just caused you pain. All right. Instead of receiving information from me, you received an accusation, right? Or some kind of condemnation, because I was trying to point something out to you. And typically, those of us that have the tendency to do that, and I was like that, for many years as well, and and that tendency just comes out of, again, not knowing, who we really are as sons and daughters. Our identity is so fragile that when anything like that happens, we just immediately crumble under it because it confirms. Check this. It confirms what we either believe or have suspected about ourselves all along. So many of us, and I know what this feels like, because this is all me too. So many of us for so long walk around with this kind of subtle cloud over us where we just feel like there's something wrong with us. It's like there's something wrong with me. Or if you're not sure about that, there's got to be something wrong with me. There's got to be. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something wrong with me. So, when someone comes to us to share, what should be helpful, counsel or words of loving correction, right? Instead, we receive it as a confirmation that, yup, see, I knew there was something wrong with me. I, I'm telling you, that's typical reaction. And, maybe you have um, another take on that, in terms of what that looks like for you. So, anytime y'all can just jump in here and, and share your experiences, with some of this stuff. I would love that, as a matter of fact, because, here I go again, just I'm doing all the talking. One of the reasons why I don't like these virtual things, because I can't look you in the eye. Look, I'm staring in. I'm looking at the eye of the camera. So, um, okay. So she gets some real help with Tony to figure out where this is coming from. And on page 31, she gives us this really nice list of the main features of powerless thinking. And I really like this because it does, put it out there pretty simply for us to look at this and understand what reactions, um, you know, go along with powerlessness. Number one, driven by fear, specifically the fear of punishment or relational pain. Okay. Um, I don't want somebody to hurt me, by what they say or what they do or what they don't do, right? Number two, powerless behavior manifests as the three fear symptoms of fight, flight, or freeze. It has the goal of self-protection, which we talked about, characterized by a victim mentality. Man, that is so true. The victim mentality, as she points out, everything outside is more powerful and a threat. That people are always out to get me. They're always going to do things or say things to hurt me. People are always trying to mess with me and whatnot. Victim mentality, man. Whew. Powerless language. I can't. I have to. You made me. That's part of that. And then of the triangulation, having a bad guy to blame for stuff while bringing somebody along to commiserate with, our situation. That's huge. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit or read to you actually a section from Danny Silk's book, Keep Your Love On. I know we're reading Pathway to Powerful, but I would also highly recommend that you get this particular book by Danny Silk. Keep Your Love On is really the book that gave rise to the book that we're reading now. So it's got some amazing stuff. And I love this thing. He puts here two questions that we need to ask ourselves. Number one, if you never really learn to value and understand what's going on inside of you, how can you value and understand what's going on with another person? And this speaks to the issue of your emotional intelligence, your awareness of your emotional state or your mental state at any given moment. I have a whole workshop on emotional intelligence that maybe I can do that at some point if there's enough interest, but really it helps us to focus on this idea that, okay, what is going on in me right now? Okay, it's developing the ability to hit the pause button, or as I like to say, take a step back. I'm in a situation. I'm in, something happening here. This person is reacting to me badly. Now I have to, learn to take a step back for a moment, right? And assess, okay, where am I? What's going on in me right now? And how do I want to respond to this person? And the awareness, it doesn't have to be as much or always in the moment is what I want to say, we can develop an awareness of our emotional and our mental state at any time. I can think of multiple occasions where, I might be just walking around praying. And it happens, I think most times that's when it happens. I'm just chatting with the Lord about something, and all of a sudden, I'll notice something in me, some, feeling, some unease about something. And it's usually related to the subject that I'm talking to him about. And so I've learned to become more aware of that, and I'll ask him, I'll say, Papa, why do I feel this way, about this situation? What is going on? Or I'll think about a situation and, that feeling that something will start to get stirred up in me. And so there are times where I'll recognize that and I'll go, oh, okay, what's going on? Oh, why do I feel this way? Please help me. And I'll dialogue with him about it. And 9 times out of 10, he's going to give me some insight regarding why I'm feeling some uneasiness or fear or even anger, over a particular situation that I'm thinking about. But it really is, I cannot, man, I can't stress to you any more than I am right now how important this is for us in our, in our maturing in Christ, to be able to own our emotional state, our mental state, and again, not beat ourselves up over it, but rather say, well, okay, well, what does this mean? Why am I, having this particular situation? Someone wants to talk? Okay, I heard a noise. I thought somebody wanted to talk. No problem. I'm just brightening my camera here for a moment now that the sun is going down. So knowing, valuing myself, understanding what's going on inside of me, taking the time to do that makes me better equipped to understand what's going on inside of you. Okay? Because if I'm ignorant of my own mental emotional state and I'm just going with that, in other words, I'm allowing for my mental and emotional state to basically lead me. I am in a position where I can't focus on you because it's all about me. It's all about what's happening inside of me. And so forget about you. I'm just going to, I'll react to you because I'm stirred up and don't realize that I'm that stirred up, right? And then the second question is, if you don't know yourself, how can you get to know another person, someone with a completely different experience and perspective, and value the truth of who they are? All right. So, we're in this season of learning to become comfortable in our own skin, comfortable with how God made us, comfortable with who we are as sons and daughters, and to not feel like we have to apologize for that. I mean, I've been around a lot of people over the years who they just seem to always say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And they're saying I'm sorry because they're powerless and they're trying to keep the peace, or they just feel like they are not worth much, and so they feel like they have to take the blame for anything and everything. And that's just how they deal with life, right? And so those questions are amazing. He gets into the 3 styles of communication here: passive, aggressive, or passive aggressive, and talks about the differences between those styles of communication. And basically, if you're a passive person, your core belief is that the other person matters and I don't. So I'm not going to talk about how I'm feeling. I'm not going to talk about what I'm thinking about. It's always, oh, it's okay, whatever you want. No, you didn't hurt me. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need to talk about anything. It's always, you never want to actually come to grips with what's going on inside of you. That's the passive style. The aggressive style, I guess, is pretty obvious. it's when the person reacts and they just blast you with both barrels, because that's basically how they deal with everything, right? Um, and then the passive aggressive, oh my gosh, this is the one that's really the hardest to deal with, because on the surface, the person's acting, fairly nice, fairly civil towards you, but behind the scenes, yeah, they're either saying things about you or they're doing things, that speak the exact opposite. It's like, I'm not going to tell you to your face how you hurt me, but I'm going to show you. I will show you through other means, other behavior patterns, other, things of maybe talking about you behind your back or whatever. There's just many different ways. So he talks about those and gets into more detail. We're not going to take the time to do that. Again, I recommend highly that, that you pick up, Keep Your Love On, and look at that yourself. All right, so um, emotional awareness, we talked about that. Um, I like the example that she gives when it comes to checking our language. They in their staff meetings, they really worked on not making excuses, right? Instead of saying, sorry, I'm late, the traffic is really bad, which is kind of a normal thing, but it's really a victim kind of an approach, because you're saying, oh, I have no control over the traffic, when in fact we do, and especially in today when you can, you know, map it on your phone and it'll show you where the traffic is, right? So they started changing their truth, things like, sorry I'm late, I had poor time management, which is more accurate, but it's a great way to do it. Um, so, I hope that we would be able to also help each other in that regard. If you hear me using language, phrases, and things like that aren't helpful, that are victim oriented, hey, call me out, please. All right, and I'll do the same for you. Talks about seeking and receiving feedback. Again, it really, really is the breakfast of champions. Um, Being willing to receive, the kind of loving uh, counsel and help from each other concerning anything, really. I've spoken this to I think most, if not all of you, on several occasions, that I am completely approachable to anyone at any time. If you feel like you see something or sense something that concerns you about me and about my life, ministry, whatever it is, you better come and tell me. Because if I find out afterwards, but seriously, I value that. I've learned that, the whole coach training thing that we did. I mean, that's all we did for one another, because what they did was they paired us up with another student, and we would do these exercises together and then give each other feedback on how we did. And the more pointed the feedback, the more valuable it was, because you could really grab hold of something and say, okay, yeah, I know what you mean. I'm going to work on that. So having that freedom, and it is a freedom. Oh my gosh, having the freedom to be able to sit down and have an adult conversation with somebody about something that's concerning, and by adult I mean that we both can share our perspectives and our understanding and everything, without fear that I'm going to somehow trigger you, that you're going to trigger me. Oh, thank you, Lord. Can we get there? We will. We're getting there. We're reading this book and it's going to help us. Okay. um, so the summary on page 34 is just, I think it's a good way to look at the points that she makes. We don't need to go through those, because we just did, basically. And then the activation, I really appreciate that, this is here for us. So I've shared with you some things tonight, and also um, the challenges that I've faced in myself over these past months as I've tried to wrap my mind and my arms around the transition that we're in. And I know that many of you are feeling that it's like, wow, this is like so different and weird from what we have been used to in terms of we're always together every week, and now all of a sudden this is a totally different season, and it's not easy. Transitions are never easy, but we're going to be creative and we're going to figure out how to bridge this particular gap and stay together as family, as a tribe, as those that are called to serve the Lord together and do what we're called to. So, um, that's been an interesting thing. I can also share with you that I work through challenges with respect to my relationships with other leaders in the region. Not that there's any kind of problems there, but I work through the issues that relate to how it's so difficult to bring people together in a way that the region can become unified. So I'm constantly dealing with my disappointment and even my anger when I try to see what we can do, and there's so little interest in things of that nature. So I'm trying to give you some sense of some of the things that I have to work through myself, um, and in terms of my emotional maturity, and not allowing my initial reactions to certain things to color how I'm going to go forward with it. Okay, so anybody have any thoughts on this first question, in terms of a challenging situation or a relational struggle that you're going through? Because now would be a good time for you to share. And there's Donna. I didn't see you come in. Good to see you, Donna.
Hey Russ, can you hear me?
Yes, Anna, we can hear you just fine.
Hi everybody. Hi Donna. Hi Millie. I know. I'm just having too much fun. No, but I want to, if you could give me like examples of, you feel kind of angry. I mean, we've all been in this kind of the same region. We're not going to talk negatively about the region, but we've all kind of had same issues as leaders, where there's kind of like things that are said that we're going to do, but then they turn around and it doesn't happen. So what are we using, like phrases like, I was under the impression that blah, 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 but this happened? I mean, give me an example of what we should actually verbalize.
Well, for me, my go-to response when I'm dealing with other people is the fact that I have no control over people's decisions. And, once you kind of get that firmly established in your own self, that, okay, people are free to make, their own choices, to set their own priorities, and nothing I can do about that. So if the only time I think respond specifically is if there was a specific in place. If someone was to say to me, okay, we're going to do this, we're definitely going to do this, and then it doesn't happen, or they all of a sudden say, well, we're not going to do this. Well, of course, then I would say, okay, could we talk about what just happened here? you know, but when there's no specifics involved, hey, I just have to kind of say, Lord, you're in charge. you have to deal with people in their hearts about the things that that I believe you are wanting to do, and I'm just praying that that we can get everybody on board as quickly as possible. That makes sense?
Yeah. So, am I hogging up too much questions? Because I have a lot of them.
No, feel free. I want to hear from everybody, and you're the first one up, so you got the floor.
Yeah, I do. So, okay, I think I'm okay with other believers. but it seems as though in the workplace there's way more challenges because not everybody's on the same page. They're really, and then there's, I don't want to say there's yeah, there probably is a demonic component because people don't act like Christ, so they can't possibly always have to act like um, we would or respond the way we would as believers. But
Right.
I mean, I've just had bosses like blow up my phone. Here's my phone. It's being blown up. You're screaming at me for what reason? And I just don't know exactly always how to respond. And so there has always been a situation with somebody that's overbearing.
Yeah, well, sure. But I think what we're learning here is that if I receive their behavior toward me in a way, if I receive it as a personal attack, okay, that that will take me out of the realm of possibility where I can actually deal with the situation as it is. In other words, if I allow their behavior to cause me to become so emotionally unbalanced and mentally unbalanced because they're attacking me. How dare they say these things? Who do they think they are? All these kinds of reactions that I understand it's a human sort of thing that we would respond like that. But what we're learning is that it's much better for me to look at that and go, okay, what is going on with them? What, what would possibly be happening in their life that would make them feel justified in behaving this way? In other words, you're not, someone that yells at me for something, it's like, wow, I'm so sorry you're upset. What's going on? You know what I mean? I'm not going to receive that as a personal insult. And in some cases, and I've had this happen to me, in some cases when I react like that, it just makes the person madder. But I can't help it. I'm like, you're not going to, dump your mess on me. Now, if there's something that I need to respond to in what you are saying, well, I can calmly do that and give an answer or an explanation or even apologize if I screwed up. You know what I'm saying? But to not let that bad behavior on their part have any impact on me, that I want to live like that. I don't know about you. Did you go away?
No, who, me?
Well,
No, I'm still here.
okay.
No, but I think their values are a little different than mine. And the more calm I am, the more they freak out. So I don't know what to say.
Well, there's nothing you can say. Again, we can't control people, but we can control ourselves. We can control how we're going to respond when people are just act stupid, when they do stupid things and act badly. Um, right. Your nice response, your good response, it's not. I don't think we can look at it from the standpoint. Well, if I act nice, and then I'll diffuse the situation. It might happen, but it might not. That's not why we do it. We act in this way where we're not allowing their mess to affect us because it's the best thing for us. It's the best thing for me, not to let that have its impact on my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And you can do that because Jesus is, he's in you and he never gets flustered.
No, he definitely doesn't. And he never loses sleep over anything.
Absolutely. Good. Any other thoughts or questions?
What page were we reading from Danny's Silk book? I got the Keeping Your Love on, but I didn't know what page you were talking about.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I actually have it. I have the Kindle version, so I doubt if it's the same page numbers.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not the numbering is different. But it comes out of the chapter called Communication, chapter 5. That comes at chapter 5. Yeah, that's where a lot of that stuff is coming from. Cool. Anybody else? You're done, right, Anna?
Yeah, it's page 81 if you want to know.
Page 81. All right.
I think Donna's raising her hand. I'm lowering my hand.
I can see that. All right. I'm going to turn your mic off now.
Okay, no.
Who did I just unmute? That was Juan.
Me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I don't have any questions, but I just really felt this chapter was so helpful for myself.
Okay.
Because, as I'm reading it, we all have been in those situations, and so I was able to sit back and analyze how I handled those situations and how I would handle them differently, after reading this. So I thought it was very, very helpful. I really did. And I'm one of those people that, if somebody, gets upset with me right away, I beat myself up. I do. And so it just gave you such a good reason not to, because like you said, you just you come out of that place of knowing who you are in Christ. So yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. But I'll take like a whole day. Like I definitely, after I go through beating myself up, then I analyze, but I do the beating up first, and you really do. You bruise yourself,
So can
Not
we,
doing that anymore. It makes
can we-
perfect sense.
can we agree
But I just felt this was very helpful.
good. Can we agree to skip the beating up part?
I'm going to skip that from now on.
All right,
Yeah.
good. But what I like about, what you said just now is that you are going back and reviewing certain situations to see, okay, so how could I do that differently?
Right.
That's huge. We've all had bad stuff happen, interpersonal situations and whatnot, where, we kind of wish that it had not gone as badly as it did. So
Right.
this is an awesome way
Absolutely.
to do that and go back and say, okay, so how could I have handled it differently, with a view to saying, all right, so if it happens again,
Right.
well, yeah,
Right.
awesome.
Right.
Cool beans.
Well, thanks for the help.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. I lost my book here. So the next one, have an honest look at yourself, carefully looking for victim mentalities or powerless language or behavior. Ask yourself the question, am I
Hey,
reacting?
I had a question. I had a statement. I've been
Oh,
trying to get on.
okay. Well, come on.
Sorry. It's just that I couldn't figure out how to get you to hear me, and I'm repeating myself. Okay, so for me, I just have to share that I agree with Donna. This chapter was amazing. I talk about self-revelation. It was amazing. Now, I really like that statement on the bottom of 33 where it says, we learn to turn to one another and ask, I am not sure what's going on inside of me right now. And, it's so funny because that's how I feel so many times when different situations. And I thought I was the only person in the universe that felt like that,
Oh, wow.
And to see that other people go through that, because I think that everybody understands why they feel a certain way or why they go through whatever they're going through, in their emotions or in their head. And there's so many times where I don't understand why I'm feeling what I'm feeling or why I'm responding in the way that I'm responding, and I thought this chapter was amazing.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a great point that, you know what, I didn't notice that. I like the fact that, that we do have this capability of being that transparent with one another and say, hey, I'm going through something right now and I'm not even sure what it is. To be able to be that vulnerable, and say, could we just kind of process together? That's huge, man. Yeah, I love that.
that was big self-revelation for me, though.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Juan wanted to say something and couldn't get through. Juan, can you say something now, man?
Can you guys hear me?
Yay! Now we
Yeah.
got you.
Uh,
Go ahead. man.
yeah, no, I wanted to touch up on something you said earlier, and actually, I think it connects with Anna's question in regards to when speaking to someone on their behavior or something like that. Something I've heard Danny say on several occasions is not not going to the person and like, oh, you did this, or so it won't be confrontational or make the person feel a certain way, but more of a like he says, hey, when you do this, it makes me feel like this, or it makes me feel like this when you behave this way. So it gives it, you're basically allowing the person to see what's going inside of you based on their behavior, as opposed to coming across like, hey, you doing this, and I don't like it, or and where the person might feel where you're attacking them, you're actually making yourself vulnerable and saying, I feel unloved when you do X, Y, and Z, or I feel that you are mad at me when you do X, Y, and Z. So the person is able to have an opportunity to see what's going inside of you and how their behavior is affecting you. So anyway, it
Yeah.
was something you touched earlier on the book, and I think that just kind of connects or applies to with what Anna was saying about dealing with people at work. That might be a good approach to, like, so they don't feel like you're attacking them, but
Right.
now there's they also now have an idea of and an understanding of how their behavior is affecting you without
Yeah.
you coming across and attacking them.
Absolutely. I
You know,
think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think the key, though, has to do with what level of relationship you have with the person. Because,
Right.
let's say in the case of Anna's boss, she may not have the ability to go to say that to her boss. Only she knows that, whether that boss would receive even
Right.
that level of feedback. But you're right, that idea of, hey, I don't think you realize it, but when you say or you do this, it really makes me feel X, Y, or Z. That's awesome, man. That's a great technique, I think. Yep. Cool beans.
Cool.
So if you can mute your mic on your phone, that way if you want to jump back in, you control it yourself.
Got it.
Okay. I see someone's got the chat going on. Oh, okay, no problem. All right. So who else do we have? Anybody else have something that you would like to share? I guess I should go through the rest of these. So yeah, asking ourselves questions, asking Jesus to reveal any roots of fear that are being expressed. Jesus, through the situation, Jesus, please show me any places where I'm under the influence of fear in this circumstance. That can be very powerful as well. And we've pretty much covered a lot of this, through what we were talking about earlier. So any of this stuff that you feel like you have something to share in terms of your own experience. Again, number 4, refuse to judge anything that may be revealed. Hey, it's it's the things that are hidden that never get dealt with. And so we want stuff to be brought into the light so that we can see it and basically take care of it. And so honestly, what these questions are, I don't know if you made this connection, but a lot of this right here is like you're doing a self-sozo, right? You're doing a self-sozo with the Lord, asking him these questions and letting the Holy Spirit, bring you revelation. When did I learn to be afraid? Has something like that happened to me before? And understanding that if there was someone, in your past who was the source of this thing that now you get triggered, well, there's going to have to be forgiveness. You're going to have to release them and basically get free of whatever that was that they put on you at some point. As if something is revealed, congratulations, you've had a powerful encounter or powerful moment of self-discovery. And so, yeah, good stuff. Anybody have anything else that they would like to share based on this chapter or what we have talked about tonight? Well, okay. If there is no other comments or sharing to be done, then we're done. I'm not going to keep you on here any longer than we need to be. So thank you so much. I appreciate. So we need to schedule a meeting. We really do. I want to just have a chance for us to talk about what kinds of outreach things we want to try to do this year, especially now that the weather's warming up, and just to get a sense of, you know, what's possible with regard to that. So I don't know whether we should do it, you know, like an in-person thing. I'd love to do an in-person meeting, but you know how easy that is. Or we could do another one of these Zoom things. I mean, we could potentially, you know, do a Zoom meeting on a weeknight or even before this thing next Sunday. I don't know. So you let me know. Not now, because we're ending this now, but let me know what you think, and we'll figure it out. Alrighty, I love you all. Thank you so much for spending this time, and we will see you out and about and around. All right, bye-bye.